time to get to the most important part. That is the speaker for today. Today we're going to talk about abundance. That's December's theme. And as always, they make a beautiful little intro, so I'm going to try to read it as good as I can. Gratitude magnifies our experience of abundance. When we marvel at the taste of ripe summer fruit, juice bursting from its skin. When we set a table, a seat for every person we cherish and bathe in the radiance. It's really hard when you suffer from severe ESL, like I do. English is my second language, but I can do those words. Generosity multiplies abundance. When we prioritize mutual flourishing over private stockpiling, plant ecologist Robin Wall Kimmerer posts, the practice for dealing with abundance is to give it away. Once you stop hoarding what you fear to lose, you find that the more you share, the richer in community, in well-being you become. Now that's a little bit that we get from the headquarters also. It's always a little bit philosophical, but we're going to make it a little bit more real. So today I asked Monica to be our speaker. I know Monica from the Dragon Boat team that I paddle with. We're the sea gods. And she went onto quite an interesting path, working in, what's that? PricewaterhouseCoopers, yeah. I kind of want to say corporate, but this is way more specific. Thank you very much. Tricky button. In marketing, but you kind of got more triggered by how can we live sustainably, what can we do, and how can we improve that around the world. So I want everyone to give a big round of applause to Monica. And here is your clicker.
Hi, good morning. How are we doing? Good. Oh, thank you for having me. It's my pleasure to be here. Two things first. I've got sensitive airways, so if I sneeze, don't worry, it's not COVID. Second thing, I'm not normally a public speaker, so even if you don't know what I'm talking about, just clap. And just tell me that I'm good. I'd start with a bit about myself and the defining moments and the experience that I have that shape my view towards abundance. I was an engineer by training, marketer by day, because I haven't found a job in sustainability yet, and a researcher by night. Topics around sustainability really interest me, especially things on net zero strategy, circular economy, regenerative ideas, or nature-based solutions. Now, looking back, the seed in sustainability was sown long before when I was Hawaii in 3 months on a scholarship. There were two things that shaped my view. The first was the Hawaiian ethos of take only what you need. I mean, that was mind-blowing, not because I consider myself as a greedy bastard, but I mean, we were raised with saving for the rainy days, right? So when the bad days come, we are prepared. But what they believed was the nature will provide. We take care of the nature, and we are just the guardians of the earth. We don't be greedy, and we just take what we need. The second thing was scuba diving. I've always wanted to do it, but my mom say that water elements are not good for me, so I shouldn't be doing it, and obviously I did it when she's not around. It was my first time that came into contact with wild animals, not animals in the zoos and not the pets that we have, that really blew my mind. I mean, some of them, they were shy, they would go away when they see you. Some of them were indifferent. Some of them, they would be so curious and come up to check you out. Who dive here? Who scuba dive here? And do you find that connection with them the moments that they are with you?
Yeah, I find them sneaking up on you and biting you sometimes. Is that on my fingers?
Are you sure they are not your dive buddy?
Yeah, that too.
And so regardless of how they react when they are with us, they are sentient and they are conscious. And I started to think, how are we coexisting with these animals? Are we sharing the space or are we invading their space? And how can we live in a more sustainable manner? And those were my thoughts that shaped my view on abundance. And for the next 5 minutes, I'd like to invite you to chat with your neighbors about thoughts on abundance. What does abundance mean to you? Is it positive or negative? Can you give some example? And do you like the idea of abundance, and why is that? Please start. Our time. Hello, everybody. How are we doing with the discussion? Good. Everybody feel enlightened? Anybody would like to share what they've talked about and or what the neighbor talked about? Oh, come on. Yeah. Can we have a... I think they want to be civilized.
Okay, Jenny.
Okay, we'll be civilized. So Rose and I were talked about different forms of abundance, especially living in a densely populated city like Hong Kong. I shared that I've learned to appreciate abundance with share economy, especially after becoming a mother. I realized I can get pretty much everything secondhand, and also giving it back to the immediate community. So it frees my mind from feeling that I need to buy all the stuff and own all the stuff. And it literally frees up space, and it kind of frees my mind from having to worry about all this ownership. So I think the community actually becomes its own form of abundance, where I feel like, okay, if I need something last minute, like costume for school tomorrow, like I'll just, message the group. And then Rose also shared that in the city, we have things like public transportation and relatively good air quality compared to a lot of other Asian cities, like all these things that we sort of take for granted, and that's also forms of abundance.
Anybody else would like to share?
Great, I love how you involved a community in your sense of abundance. I love that one. Hi.
Good morning. I'll be very quick and short. It just we.
Very soft button.
Oh yeah, okay. So it just one quote from I think Shakespeare come to my mind, which is "So sweet honey that finally he's bitter. The excess kills the taste of taste." So there should be balance, not too little and not too much, but just right. But I like the fact that now we are going for minimalism, like Swedish minimalism, Japanese minimalism, like in our everyday lives, digital minimalism. Because in this world of consumerism, there should be kind of a balance, because you cannot, we were talking about the times where people were just buying toilet paper during during pandemic, and it was all over the news, and we're kind of shocked. So yeah, I think everywhere it should be just a balance.
Thanks. Yeah.
We were talking about the meaning of abundance and trying to learn what it is. And we can't really decide if it's positive or negative. And also that maybe once you've had what you once thought was abundant, as in toilet paper, you now need more. So your baseline of abundance changes, and then you have less than you think you need, and it's no longer abundant.
That's really interesting. Oh, we've got another one.
It's like your alcohol tolerance is changing. The more you drink, the more...
From a full half pint of beer, now you want a full pint of beer.
I think what the last two people said was quite good, and this is a bit of a summary, but also what we spoke about is different cultures define abundance in different ways and value different things within the context of abundance. So like in Hong Kong, we have an abundance of energy, abundance of opportunities, but it's also very busy and sometimes very stressful. Where in other cultures where it's like not a big city, you know, there's abundance of space, maybe there's more concept of abundance of time to do the things that you want to do besides, you know, work all day. But then at some point, why do people migrate and move? Maybe because they need a balance of a little bit of both, or they've got too much abundance of one thing in one culture and they're looking for something else. So maybe at the end of the day, it is a little bit of a balance kind of seeking journey.
Thank you so much for sharing. And I see that there are a lot of connections to sustainability in the discussion, and I think I found my group. When Mark approached me with the topic abundance, we chatted about what we feel about it and what it means to us. Like you, we associated the word with both positive and negative qualities. And then we asked each other, so how did that happen? Where did the tipping point begin? When abundance in one thing often means scarcity in another thing. For example, we are spending our time chasing abundance in wealth, and we are sacrificing our time. With the material possession, then we are sacrificing the natural resources. Or even when we have abundance of friendship, that means we may not have enough time for ourselves, for our self-care, our me time. Or an abundance in one species could mean extinction of another. I would like to share an example from the research topic that I'm working on. The research is about seaweed, or seaweed farming, to be precise, the socio-economic resilience in seaweed farming, particularly in COVID-19. The aim of the research is to understand whether seaweed farming is a reasonable job and provide job and economic security to the farmers. It's a very diverse industry. We've got artisanal producers that harvest or forage for the seaweed that they see. Or we have smallhold farmers. This is in Indonesia, where they would do basic farming activities, looking for proper sites, tying of lines, tying of seeds, maintaining the sites, etc. And this is what it looks like when it grows. Or we have industrial players where they have proper machineries. I mean, this gentleman right here, he's probably an expert in seaweed, so he's probably got more masters than we do. It is an $18 billion industry. And of course, the farmers were always looking for ways to scale up, to achieve a higher yield, and for more effective farming methods. So who likes seaweed, or who knows about seaweed here? Sorry? That's kombu, yeah. You know your seaweed. So who know about seaweed farming? You do? Okay, we've got another co-speaker here. So we all know about the benefits of seaweeds, right? It's a really nutritious food for animals, for human. It can be created into biofuels, biodegradable, non-toxic plastic. It's food additives such as agar-agar. You can use it in cosmetics. It's a fantastic nursery for small fish. And what's even best about seaweed is that it absorbs so much carbon, even more than the trees on land. And that helps regulating the ocean acidity, which in turn maintaining the marine food chain and food supply to human. Now, socioeconomically, seaweed farming provides a platform for gender equality. the ladies here in Tanzania, as well as Kenya, they would go seaweed farming while the husband go fishing. And the ability for them to generate income means an elevation in their social status. And here in Indonesia, mothers could bring the children to work. You can see the water, it's very shallow, so they can keep an eye on the children while the children be safely around them. And that brings economic freedom to the ladies. Now, that sounds all pretty cool, right? Yeah. But you know it's coming. Now, while seaweed farming is a low-impact activity in general, achieving the abundance, some industry player would have negative consequences. Can you think of any? Want to guess?
Removes diversity.
Yeah, very good, very good. Anybody else? Okay, I guess I'll disclose the answers. So the equipment and anchors of the seaweed farming structure, they may damage corals or the benthic habitat. Overfarming of one species going to destroy the biodiversity. Introducing alien species may disturb the original native species and introduce disease to the native species, as well as changing the local environment. And although infrequent, some bigger animals, they may get entangled in the lines. How are the pros and cons of seaweed farming have anything to do with abundance? We are trading environmental well-being through seeking abundance in harvest. And in the quest of abundant harvest, sometimes there are mindless decisions that create a negative impact. That takes away the goodness from the original intention. But those problems were actually mitigatable if there were careful selection of sites, mindful planning, planting multiple species on the same site, and acknowledging the maximum output without introducing bad agricultural habits. Now, you may ask me, how does seaweed farming have to do with the topic today? Well, actually, the principle of achieving abundance in seaweed farming is the same of our quest to achieving abundance. We are often fixated on the benefits of the abundance that we see, but we may not have asked ourselves, what are we trading off? What are we giving up while we are achieving the abundance? There are no right or wrong answers of what you are willing to give up or what you want to achieve. But I would like to invite you for an introspection, to ask ourselves, what is your priority? What is it that you want most in life? What is it that you are trading off in your quest to abundance? How to mitigate them? And how can we achieve a mindful abundance? And on that note, I wish you all a happy life full of balanced, happy, mindful abundance. Thank you.
So before we finish it off, this is the opportunity to turn to your team one more time. And can you repeat the questions one more time? What were the introspective notes that we need to think of?
I conveniently didn't bring up the slides. So what is it that we wish to create the abundance in? What are our trade-offs? What are the negative impacts or ripple effects from our decisions? How can those be mitigated? And are we making mindful decisions in our quest to abundance?
I would suggest we focus on one of those questions. So with your team, pick one of those questions, discuss it, and with 2 or 3 minutes, we'll do one more sharing. So yeah, turn back to your team, the team you were in earlier today, and pick a question. Which one do you guys want to discuss? Okay, one more time, please, back to us. We started with giving you guys the opportunity to talk to each other, to find out what abundance means, and we went all over the place, from having stuff, having too much, having too little, from how to use community to create abundance, how different cultures evaluate abundance different. Then Monica started talking and had some great examples that brought it all about seaweed farming. Then we brought it back, so now we have, and I talk way too fast. Then we brought it back here and give you some specific questions. So you got all this information, you got all these inputs, all these other different views. So I'm very curious to hear from some of you guys. How would you answer the question that you picked? So it's up to you. Who wants to share what they just discussed? I'm really curious to hear how abundance, what it means to you guys.
Thanks. So we came to our conclusion based on not being able to figure out which question to even focus on. So it turned out that we were kind of conversing about the abundance of choices, right? The abundance of options actually creates a challenge to find focus. And I relate this a lot to like dating apps, for example, right? Because if the goal is to find a relationship, a meaningful one, hopefully, and everybody has different goals, but if that's your goal, the abundance or the perceived abundance of potential mates and partners actually creates potentially a lack of investment and focus in any one person, and then you don't actually you never achieve your goal because you're always wondering, well, you know, maybe my next swipe will lead me to the right person, but there's always a next swipe.
That's a really good example.
I like that.
Real life example.
Yeah, so if a choice is reversible, so for example, swiping, if a choice is reversible, the chance of happiness goes down 60 to 70%. And that's kind of the economy or the city that we live in, or not the city, but the world. I saw one more hand over there.
Building on that point, we kind of shared a little bit of the same. We talked about actually the trade-offs themselves and being okay with those trade-offs and recognizing that you've made a choice is where the abundance actually comes from. So you can't have abundance without trade-offs, as to your point. And the gratitude or the recognition or the intentionality behind that is what allows you to appreciate the abundance you do have. If not, you just chase everything, and we determine that's where it leads to just blowing up.
And that is mindful
Great.
abundance.
Yeah, cherish what you have. Gordon,
In
I think we
action.
have one more here.
We were talking about abundance and the trade-offs. And for instance, if Hong Kong, if we had an abundance of flats, that would be great for a lot of people, but the trade-off is that now the flat that you own is worth half. So that abundance is great for the people that don't have a place, and it's not good for the people that own 2 places. Or 3.
20.
Or 20, right? So therefore, how do you control that? And that's why you should heavily tax second homes and third homes.
I think we've got a new topic for next year.
Okay, thank you guys so much. Thank you for your interaction and sharing your thoughts with us. A big round of applause for Monica.
Thank you.